Last month, an Australian missionary and his 2 young sons were burnt to death in India. There was widespread condemnation of the killings both in India and abroad. Some people thought the killings might be a watershed in a series of attacks against the Christian community, many of which have been blamed on Hindu extremists. But there have been further incidents since. Opposition politicians see the death of India's commitment to secularism around the corner. The Hindu nationalist-led government says it's being defamed. Mike Aldridge reports.
Rekindling the spirit of Hinduism in the land that gave birth to it. Devout Hindus in Ahmedabad worship according to age-old rituals. Little sign here of a faith and culture under threat. But several thousand sadhus, Hindu holy men, are gathering here to chart a strident course for the defense of the faith. They're accused of helping to create the climate in which Christians are being attacked. They claim Hinduism is facing an international conspiracy fronted by a new wave of Christian missionary activity.
For 1,000 years we were slaves. The Christian as well as the Muslims were our rulers. They ruled us once. They terrorized us. They exploited our resources. They converted us. These 2 religions. We cannot forget the fact. We cannot allow them to repeat that history.
These are figures of political influence in today's India, sometimes courted, but sometimes also chided by their ideological allies in power. The divide between doves and hawks in the government has been sharpened by the anti-Christian campaign, and one cabinet minister has resigned. The issue has sometimes seemed to consume the country.
This is the vanguard of Hindu nationalism, holding the first gathering of this kind with a Hindu nationalist-led government in power in Delhi. Until now, the unchallenged priority for Hindu leaders like these has been campaigning for the construction of temples on disputed sites. Today, the supposed threat to Hinduism from Christian missionaries has become just as much of a rallying cry.
So what is it? This is Graham here, and Timothy is there.
Gladys Staines visits the grave where her husband Graham and their 9-year-old son Philip and 6-year-old Timothy now lie buried. Graham Staines had worked as a missionary among the people of Orissa for 34 years. All 3 were burnt alive in this station wagon. They were sleeping in it overnight here in Manoharpur during an annual Christian event known as the Jungle Camp. They were, it seems, singled out to be killed and forced back into the vehicle as they tried to escape.
I heard noises. When I got up, I heard the screams of a child. I tried to come out of the house myself, but 3 people at my door said they would kill me if I did.
This was an act of such particular brutality that it's been made the subject of a judicial inquiry. Some of the Hindus in Manoharpur say outsiders had been trying to stir up the conversion issue, but it wasn't something they saw as a problem. This leprosy home was the focus of Graham Staines' work with the poorest. His widow is staying, determined to see that it keeps going.
One man over here who's quite in a bad condition. Namaskar.
Mrs. Staines is adamant her husband hadn't been putting pressure on anyone to convert to Christianity. Even in the home, only 10 of the 70 patients are Christian. Drawing on a profound evangelical faith, Mrs. Staines has said she can forgive the killers of her husband and sons. Their ringleader is said to be associated with a Hindu extremist group.
I know in natural way of thinking you would think to have my husband and children murdered would not be for the good of mankind. But God just put that in my heart, that I mean, as Jesus forgave the people who crucified him, then I just was able to forgive those who have done this to my husband, and I believe it will be for the good of the whole of humanity in the long run.
One widely touted theory surrounding the campaign to present Christianity as a threat to India is that it's aimed at curbing the political rise of Sonia Gandhi, at targeting the Congress party leader's Italian and Catholic background to persuade voters that if she were to become Prime Minister, India would fall under foreign Christian domination. But Congress and peace marchers, too, have been throwing back the challenge to the Hindu nationalists. They say that what's under threat is not the country's distinctive culture, but the pillar of modern India, secularism.
They know well enough that what you need to do is cause a lot of concern to a targeted community and rely on some fanatics to take advantage of that heightened tension, to do the deed that they themselves are too cowardly to do, but would not be unhappy to see being done.
It's becoming an increasingly politicized issue, but what India's Christians are resisting strongly is the claim of some Hindu extremists that theirs is an alien faith. The Christian presence in India goes back centuries before the arrival of Western missionaries, and the Indianness of the worship in this Catholic church in Orissa is something commonly found today. But this is another church community feeling vulnerable after one of its number, a nun, said she had been raped. For many, putting a police guard at church gates isn't enough to end the sense of insecurity.
The atmosphere which was before is now changed because the relation between the Hindus and Christians was very nice before. But due to this strange incident and what is happening in other places, like in Gujarat and Madhya Pradesh, the same thing is being repeated again and again. And the relation which was there before is not now the same.
Ceremonies to mark the start of the construction of a Hindu temple. These couples have put a large part of their savings into laying their own foundation stones. More evidence to those who want it that India is ready for a Hindu resurgence. Many Indians say one thing they could never have foreseen is conflict between Hindus and Christians. Although they deny a hand in the violence, the ultra-nationalist groups, according to the BJP's own coalition partners, will have to be reined in, or India may yet see political fallout on the grand scale of the temple arising here.
Mike Waldridge reporting.